Welcome everyone. This week's installment of videos builds on that idea of keeping the open heart, and we build on it by going back to that foundation of bracing the core. So often I've mentioned before that we go into those back bends and we tend to hyperextend the lower back, and so many people avoid back bends because they tend to have some back stress afterwards. So we're going to focus a little bit more on how to really engage into that core. So I'm going to use a Pilates concept that I learned. This really helped me focus on getting my back bends up high. So it's called ball breath, and I'm going to demonstrate it on my back because I feel like that gives the best ability to really feel what's happening throughout the whole core area. So I'm going to use a little Nerf ball. You can use any kind of ball, tennis ball. You can also use your thumb and use the knuckle and place it in and treat it like a ball. So the idea is that we want to go about 2 inches below the belly button, and that's where we're going to place the ball. So I'm going to lie down, and my goal is to inhale and feel my lungs expand, so the rib cage expand, and then on the exhale I'm going to press that ball down. I'm going to feel it pushing in, so my tailbone's going to tuck a bit, and I'm going to feel the lower part of my back start to come in contact with the floor. I'm going to hold it here as I take another deep inhale with the ribs, and exhale, I'm going to pull it in a little deeper. This time, once I feel like I've gone back deep towards the spine, I'm going to start feeling that ball moving up, almost like I'm trying to imagine that that ball is going to move back to the spine and then up the spine, up into the rib cage where the heart resides. So as you do this, if you're practicing this at home, you may notice that your lower back is really pressing in to the floor. It's also kind of wrapping around because we're pulling so much in here that it's spreading out the muscles and it's allowing the back to really brace. So keeping that in mind, I can come to a standing position. I can do the same thing standing. So I recommend playing with it at first, lying on your back, so that you can really feel that spreading in the back. Then begin to engage, doing it in a seated position. Now I found when I really started learning about the Pilates technique, I was having a lot of back stress. I was finishing up my degree on campus, so walking around a lot and spending a lot of time sitting. And I found that when I was walking, if I started feeling stress in my back, I would just practice ball breath, and it would almost immediately take the stress away in my back. So feel free to play with that. Let me know how it feels for you. So now I'm going to just move in. If you were at the classes this week, you've already been able to practice this with me, but I'm going to review it for anyone who might not have had the opportunity to come to class this week. And I'm going to do it from the seated position. So we took it up to the feet, we built up onto the feet, but the best way to practice this open-hearted twist is to start on the floor, because we don't have to worry about balancing on the feet or even on the knees. So I'm going to come in that seated position. I'm going to start with that ball breath. I'm going to pull it back. I'm going to feel my tailbone tuck a bit. I'm going to feel my sit bones pressing in. My left leg is going to pull in, and I'm going to just reset back in. I'm going to draw that belly button back. And the new metaphor here is to imagine that you put a belt on and you cinch it as tight as you can. Or maybe a metaphor of like trying to put on a pair of jeans that you wore 15 years ago and you're sucking everything in to try to zip up the pants. So just imagine that feeling. bracing the core. Imagine that your belt buckle is right here, around where the belly button is. I'm gonna take my hand, I'm gonna start to wrap, driving in my sit bones. I'm gonna keep that cinching the belt as I try to point my belt buckle off to the side. So while I do that, it gives me the opportunity to get some of that back bend in the lower back, and it allows me to keep my chest lifted and my heart open. So that was our challenge for this week, was to keep the heart open even as we got into these twists. And we do that by incorporating the whole spine, and we do that safely by making sure that we utilize the muscles of the body, the core, to help protect the lower back. Next week, I'm going to bring balance into that back bend. So we're going to move into one-legged balances. So if you have a chance to come to the class, come join me. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Have a wonderful week and enjoy your practice.